bid you a good evening, good afternoon, or good morning to wherever and whenever you are in the world. This is Moen After Dark, presented by the Big 12 Mafia Network. I am your host, Moen, joined as always by my co-host, Immaculate, and very special guest, the godfather of college football realignment, Greg Flugar of CFB Peek Around the Corner. How are you gentlemen doing this evening?
Good. Good to see you again, Greg.
Good. Yep. All jacked up for tomorrow night's game.
Heck yeah.
Well, before we get to that, I want to touch base because I've seen this rumors swirling around recruiting message boards, Reddit, Twitter, X. What do you guys think about this rumor that the ACC and Florida State, the settlement is a quote unquote imminent?
What do you say, Greg?
I don't think it is. I don't understand how it could be.
Right.
The only way that it could be imminent is there were talks that started long before Florida State threw down their lawsuit and the ACC threw down their lawsuit. I will say the way that the ACC lawsuit was written out, they had that thing written out long ago, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there's been talks all this while. I haven't heard it though. But where is this percolating? Where in the world?
I've seen it on 24/7 message boards. I've seen it on Reddit, on Twitter, X.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wouldn't put too much weight into it, but I see a lot of people reposting it. And you know, that's how this
settlement, huh?
Yeah, an actual settlement. So,
is there any numbers to that rumor or
nope?
Okay,
nope. Just imminent. Imminent is the word that settlement imminent is the words that they put in quotation marks. So,
wow.
I don't have much faith in it, but I just want to put it out there because I see a lot of people talking about it. Yeah. That's the way disinformation spreads quickly in this game.
Yeah. Is War?
I don't believe it.
Anybody like that talking about it?
I don't know. Is 4chan still alive?
There was some talk, but it's all hidden behind a paywall.
Okay.
Yeah. 24/7 in particular is where I've seen a couple message board people have done screenshots where people are saying,
looks like the bot's going a little wild there in chat, by the way.
Okay.
If Moen, at some point during the show, if you have time, can you throw it to me in a DM on that? If you have a screenshot.
Yeah, I'll find them. I'll find them. One of them was a Miami message board.
Oh, okay.
Personally, I think that there's probably something to the story. Now, imminent might be a strong word choice. That's what I would say. Mm-hmm. But I would not be surprised at all if they're actually talking about a settlement now. How close they are to it, I don't know. Even while talking with Greg today, I was throwing out there, I think that this SMU thing might be connected to it. Of course, don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a weird stance to have when you say yes to Houston and UCF and Cincy and BYU. Yeah, full payment, no problem. Not a single vote that was going against that, which all it would take is one unanimous vote out of a unanimous vote. But all of a sudden now to have someone saying, "Oh, SMU, that's too much," I think that signals something more. You know, I don't think that they'd be doing that if they thought it was just one school, that there aren't going to be more coming, or that if it's someone who wants the ACC to let these schools go, or whatever it is. It just doesn't make sense. If those other four hadn't gotten in, because that's added 2. The Big 12 added 2 to their number. You know, people can say, oh, well, Texas and Oklahoma are worth more. Right. But from a CFP stance, that's 4 payouts versus 2. So the payouts to the Big 12 went up with that, and no one had a problem. So this just kind of seems like maybe it's something more.
It could be.
Yeah.
Coming from the 247 world, I know Chris Nee from Florida State 247 is a serious dude. So, Moen, if you ever pick up any chatter on that site, then there's some validity to it. He's a serious dude, and he was talking Florida State stuff I don't know when it was. He was giving people a heads up. So that's one name I'd keep an eye on. If he says something, maybe he has said something. I don't know. I haven't checked it.
I haven't seen it from Florida State's 247 or War Chant or anything like that, Greg. But it moved through the Ohio State board this weekend with screenshots of other 24/7 boards, Reddit posts, things like that. It's out there on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call that. So I just want to put that out there that that's a rumor that started this weekend. I don't put much validity to it simply because, like you said, I don't think that they could get a settlement put together in this time frame, nor would they want to put a settlement together haphazardly and kind of slapdashy. But
this has been going on for a while, though. I mean, there may have been numbers thrown around internally in the past, and this has just really been FSU playing a game of making that work out a little better in their favor.
I could maybe see a ramping up of a mediation or something if things don't go well at Mecklenburg County. If the ACC, if that judge says, "Hey, this is not, this should be plaintiff. This should be in the Leon County. This should be in the state of Florida." If the ACC hits that wall, if that happens, that might rev up negotiations. But that's just speculative. I'm just speculating, though.
I mean, ACC is being very secretive about their stuff, and to be honest, that doesn't weigh good for them. When you're trying that hard to keep everything secretive, that can be leveraged against you in a situation like this. FSU's already dropped one bomb. Nobody knew about the ESPN option. How many more bombs are there willing to be dropped? We have no idea. We know about this, but that doesn't mean that's the last. So if I'm the ACC and you're really trying to keep this whole thing secret, there's a reason. I mean, there's stuff there you do not want to get out, but they've now seen it with their lawyers. I mean, they may not have took pictures, but I'm pretty sure they took notes. So what else did they have to drop? I think we could get something, and you've talked about it, Greg, maybe this month or next month. So, to someone else, that might seem imminent. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those loaded words.
I mean, we still have reasons to believe Clemson's going to say something here. So, not this week, not this coming up next week, but soon after. That's still what we're. Both of you kind of know. Well, I shouldn't get into that. So if Clemson joins in, I think that's going to help.
That would mean that they know someone wants them, though, right?
That would mean it would be worth them to spend a few $1 million in the court case, see what that number is, and then check in to see if there's a buyer for them. Just because you win and win, in other words, you get a deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say it's $300 million to leave the conference. It doesn't mean you write that $300 million check. It just means you've got the ability to leave the conference. And now you get into more formal talks, right? With the Big Ten and the SEC, because now they're open to talking to you officially because you can get yourself released. And let's say there's not enough interest in you. Then you say, well, I'm not writing that $300 million check to ACC, right? The case is just about getting a release, try to get out of it. And then I think the real work starts. But I do think Clemson's got enough feedback to where they would take a shot. But we're going to find that out pretty soon, I think. Either yes or no on that.
We'll have to see. Like I said, there's been speculation both ways. So let's say hello to some people that joined us tonight. Timothy Green, the Mountaineer. I'd like to say I always enjoy your show. It's very informative and interesting. Thank you all for all you do. Appreciate it, Timothy.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah,
BR
he's been coming around a lot.
7062, Cowboy, go Pokes, or go Dogs tomorrow. I think everybody's rooting for Washington in this room. At least I am. Nathan Campbell, a member, says hello. Hello, Nathan. Good to see you. Numbskull News is waiting. We did deliver on the special guest. I don't think they get any more special than Greg Flugar, the fat guy from Minnesota, with the fat guy from Ohio and the silver fox from Arizona.
Nice. I was like, oh, he's going to call me the fat guy from Arizona.
Raider Vision, wondering what Moen would be wearing tonight. I got my Wunter / outfit on for the ancient Dutch Wunter /. Mr. Monkey Says is here. Mr. Monkey Says, you said you had a question on the last Big 12 Mafia show. You were going to wait to ask to the Moen After Dark show. So if you could let me know what that is, we'll try and get that answered for you. Numbskull News, Moen is the guitarist from Faith No More. If I hear epic one more time, I'm going to snap. Laura Weiss, hey, y'all. And then Nightbot was being bad, so I had to put Nightbot in timeout, guys. We're still trying to figure out how Nightbot works. So
yeah, he was being very antisocial there for a moment.
He was being a bad bot, so he got put in the corner. So you guys can stop worrying about him. Tony, Nightbot is besmirching Wisconsin. I'll tell you what, Tony, if you become a member for 1 week, I'll put a command in there that besmirches Wisconsin for you.
Ooh. Exclamation mark Wisconsin.
BC Knowles in the house. Good evening, Vince. Good to see you. Florida State guy.
There's our guy.
Is it Big 10 night tonight on the Big 12 show, Daniel Gygax? This is Moen After Dark presented by the Big 12 Mafia Network.
Technically, yes. This is the Big 10 show.
Yeah. But by the time this is all said and done, we could have any number of people on here and it'd be a Big 10 show and we hit 24 members.
We will talk about the Big 12 at times too, though. We're not focusing on the Big 10. We just happen to be 3 guys from that area of the country.
Carson brings up a good point, a member here. If the AC settles before disclosure, it would be malpractice for other schools not to sue. That's always a possibility. Just how I know attorneys, I know that they wouldn't be rushing to a settlement. That's the last thing they want to do. They want to draw this out for as long as they can so they can bill both parties. The ACC attorneys want to drag it out. The Florida State attorneys want to drag it out.
I agree. And that is part of the reason why we still believe, peek around the corner, that Clemson's going to get involved here. Because you're not going to be able to, or at least from what I've been told, and it could be wrong, but it isn't like, let's say Florida State takes 18 months to reach a settlement with the ACC, and it's a decent number. Florida State goes. It's not like Clemson just has to file paperwork to the ACC and say, hey, this is, 260 million, whatever, 220, 180. Okay, we're gone. I think there would have to be a whole other, right? Machinations, right?
Maybe. I mean, it could also become a precedent, though. Like once you set an exit amount for one school.
Would it be part of the agreement between ACC and Florida State to even have that out in public? I don't know.
I mean, if you're another school, then I think you would sue to have that number known. I mean, I don't know how you keep that secret, because that number, they got to know it in order to know what their fair share of the, because the ACC would take most of that money and divvy it out to the schools. So,
well, the other thing is Florida has sunshine laws.
Yeah.
And since Florida State is a public university, that figure absolutely has to come out. All they got to do is file a FOIA request. Sunshine laws are funny that way. There's only very few things like proprietary information that they cannot reveal. But other than that, most anything that happens in the government has to be revealed to people.
That's probably why Florida State's also going first. I mean,
Yeah.
besides just their capabilities, but also having that. I mean, it's one of those things, like if they decide to just up and go and the government's ready to back them, that's going to get troublesome when the ACC tries to sue them. And or in the state of Florida is like, not so fast. I mean, that would be that whole sovereign immunity thing. If that actually comes into play, I don't know.
Timothy Green with a question. In all honesty, where do you guys see Florida State going to?
Big Ten's the chop.
Yeah, I'm 90 to 10 Big Ten. I mean, I used to think that it was going to be the SEC, but the way they did, if they have the option of the Big Ten, they'll go Big Ten.
It's 100% Big Ten. You don't even have to go to 90.
I don't like absolutes, but
I don't think the door is completely shut on SEC. But I agree with Moen and Immaculate.
I think they come in as full members of the Big Ten. They're going to be the jewel in the South.
For all that they're going through, I mean, and then you try and get them to get like a half pay, that might drive them right back to the SEC.
Yeah.
Nice. Cleveland rocks.
Cleveland rocks. Let me scroll down here. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships.
That's all right, man. Guess what? I was a little bit wasted my own self. You know? Okay.
If you received one of those 5 gifted memberships from Cleveland Rocks, make sure to say thank you to them. Much appreciated, Cleveland Rocks. Much appreciated. All right. John D. with a good point here. Some suggest negotiations have already began. Others say the ACC is ghosting FSU. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of speculation whirling around out there. Take everything you read on Twitter, 24/7 message boards with a grain of salt. Follow Greg. If it's going to happen, Greg would know. Greg would have an idea probably more than anybody else. So,
I mean, like we said, mediation is going to be a very tight circle, right? I mean, if it's happening, it's going to be a very tight circle, and it could be completely separate from everybody else that's in this game here. I have a feeling we're not going to get leaks. We reported that a couple of weeks ago in regards to the mediation. I think it has a very good chance of, if it happens, if and when it happens, it just jumps out at us. I think it's way too early for it, but I think it's something nobody knows. I think the circle is going to be so tight on that.
Well, once they go into mediation, that pretty much becomes necessary. We saw with Oregon State, Washington State, with the PAC and the other schools, when they were in mediation, nothing came out of there.
Yeah.
So they're pretty much silenced on that, and they're as part of their agreement. So if they're actually in mediation, we probably won't hear anything.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to know, guys. I think we did not know about the Magnificent Seven even. That mediation, we were told whoever is involved in that kind of stuff is completely separate from what's going on in the courtroom. I mean, not completely, but different players, right? So I don't know.
That was an interesting thing, though. I remember Bubba Cunningham came out, he's with North Carolina, and said that there was never any actual meeting of all the schools coming together and talking, how it was a series of meetings and talks between those schools.
Yeah.
And that there might have even been more than 7 that were taking part in that, which when I heard that, I was like, oh, Louisville. Yeah. But I think that one of those schools kind of leaked that out. Just my opinion. And I've said I think it's Miami, but it could have been anybody in there. I just think that they were the one different one. Everyone else was kind of in line. So I think someone that was in there leaked that out, and that's how that happens. But like you're saying, if they're in talks to get to a settlement, that might be basically a shut room you might not hear a thing until it just smacks us right in the face.
Yeah. Well, once that Magnificent Seven went pear shaped, once they figured out, yeah, we can't do this, it's not going to work. Then, yeah, I agree with you, Mac. I think at that point someone leaked it out. I would just speculation. I would guess North Carolina State, but
at the time though, they were not. I mean, remember they didn't switch their vote on that whole situation until well after that.
True.
When that came out, they were pretty solidly aligned. So you could be right, and maybe that was leading up to beforehand, and that's actually how they were the whole time. I just kind of think that we've talked about the Virginia, North Carolina, Florida SEC, and Florida State, and maybe Clemson to the Big Ten was a lot of the talk at the time. Maybe Miami was the odd one out. I don't know. Could have been Clemson.
Raider Vision asking the real questions here. Have you purchased a car as a Christmas present?
I know you will.
No. Nobody gets a car for Christmas, people. I have yet to meet anybody. And I've worked in some very high-end areas, even in, Muirfield Country Club here in Ohio. Never met anybody who received a brand new car for Christmas. Although Numbskull apparently got a cherry 1978 Volkswagen Rabbit for Christmas. I don't drive manual, so I don't think I could have handled that Volkswagen.
An actual rabbit? Or did he break the rule? And actually
I'm telling you what, if it's a Volkswagen, it's probably still running.
Probably making a lot of noise, but still running.
So they want to know how Dabo Sweeney got his black eye.
Yeah, good question. I would love to know that.
I am going to say a booster did it.
I think so. Any? Is this just a kind of a guess, or is there?
It's a guess. Yeah, I don't think a booster actually did it. Who knows? But he does. He does have a black eye.
Yeah.
Dabo insulted the portal. The portal popped Dabo in the eye.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true because Dabo doesn't look in the portal. So.
Speaking of the portal, breaking news: Christian Driver, the son of Bobby Driver, Penn State wide receiver that couldn't get on the field, just transferred to Minnesota. The problem is he's as slow as I am, so we'll see if that can work out. But yeah.
Hey, did you see who Iowa got? This is a trick question, by the way.
Cruz.
I don't know. I was going to turn it around and be like, oh, it actually wasn't in the portal. It was Sebastian Castro coming back next year.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rumor was around Ohio State that Judkins from Ole Miss,
the running back,
was the running back, was going to commit, which means Travion Henderson is going to the NFL.
Yeah. That'd be a great pickup for the Buckeyes.
Yeah. That would be a monster pickup.
Yeah. He was a beast 2 years ago. Last year, he was still great, but it wasn't quite what he was. That's a true freshman.
Well, just as long as they pick up some more offensive linemen and get a new offensive line coach. Moen, speculative question. If Texas, Oklahoma had entered the Big Ten instead of the SEC, would that have greased the wheels for Kansas, which would have provided a contiguous bridge from Nebraska? Probably not. Kansas has been vetted a couple times now. I think before Nebraska joined, Kansas was vetted. Before Rutgers and Maryland joined, there was talk of getting Kansas +1. I know things soured between the Big Ten and Missouri because the president from Missouri kept shooting his mouth off instead of being quiet. But I don't think that would have greased the wheels for Kansas in those scenarios. Do you guys?
I actually had a theory back in those days that was actually Oklahoma and Kansas because both of them were vetted, both were looked at. Later on, it turned out that some Big Ten presidents were not so happy with Oklahoma. But I actually had them coming, and the unexplained friendship between Texas and Notre Dame, I thought, was leading to Texas trying to get a similar deal with the ACC so that they could have their coast-to-coast independent scheduling while having a much easier route to postseason play. But I mean, if that would have happened, I could see that as a possibility. It just comes down to how big the Big Ten would have wanted to go after adding those two. That would have been a big, huge chunk to add. So
Cleveland Rocks must have let you know, Greg, your Gophers are looking really good in basketball.
Yeah, they won tonight. They have been the worst Big Ten basketball program for the last few years. Now suddenly they're 3-1 in the Big Ten. It's kind of taken everybody surprise. I don't know how really good they are. I don't want to. I mean, I think they have the lowest strength of schedule in all of Power 6 basketball, so got to take that into account. Maryland's down. They beat Maryland tonight. They beat Michigan on the road. Michigan's down. Still, any road win in the Big Ten's big, especially for Minnesota. They've got athletes. I don't know they're going to make it to the dance, though. But they're doing better, way better than they've been doing. That's correct.
Sergeant Pickles takes umbrage with the fact I put high end and Ohio together. There are some nice parts of Ohio. Yeah, there's some creepy parts, but there are some nice, wealthy portions of Ohio. There's still Rockefeller money.
It's almost like he's been a Big Ten member for a while now.
Yeah. Yeah, you haven't even joined the conference. You're already taking
He's already taking shots. I'm like, oh, they're going to fit right in.
Yeah, let's not compare Ohio to Seattle. So Mona Vision worked at Bushwood Country Club. No wonder he hates Gophers. No, I didn't say I.
Is that him?
Is Moen stuck?
Yeah, I think he is.
Okay.
Did we lose our Moen? Oh, his look was just too good.
Yeah.
Let me have a look here and see what we got going on. Where was he at? Someone was asking, would be going to the SEC be a little counterproductive? I don't think we want any more to do with ESPN. We can help it. It's from a Knowles fan, and I agree. At this point in time, I mean, it's great because you be around your locals, close games to play. But if they're also looking to kind of try to get some help getting into the AAU, I mean, they've stated that they want to get there in the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that the Big Ten can do off the field to help FSU, and in return, FSU helps them on the field. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that the SEC is counterproductive for them, or would help?
I refuse to shut the door on the possibility of Florida to the SEC. One of the reasons, Immaculate, is because in the media contract that starts July 1st, 2024, SEC, it is believed that there is a pro rata clause in there. So that doesn't mean that the SEC can just take anybody, right? And the ESPN has to pay in full. But I believe Florida State would be one of those schools. I think there could be up to 4 schools at the SEC. If somebody can get loose out of the ACC grant of rights, I think everybody's temperature kind of goes up on the thermometer. You know what I'm saying, Immaculate? I think a little bit more, oh, geez. Now we're going to have to play defense. Oh, geez. I can see the SEC presidents going, yeah, well, we better take Florida State, North Carolina, 4 teams, and Florida State being one of them. And then you turn to the Fox and Big Ten presidents, and maybe they don't pay the full freight, because if they do, then they feel like maybe they have to do it with Washington and Oregon. So I'm just not shutting the door on that possibility. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think the SEC would get something out of it because the Big Ten wouldn't be able to get into Tallahassee with that big brand.
Yeah, I like you're saying, I'm kind of looking in a little direction. Like if the SEC is going to do something, I think that, and whether you think it weird or not, I think that they definitely want to move their footprint. I think that would be their number one goal with this.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and so to me, I think that Florida State makes even maybe less sense for them than those do. It only really makes sense in a defensive move. And like you're saying, maybe they've thought that this just wasn't possible. And now it starts to seem real. And so now they're contending with what they want to do versus maybe what they should do, which would be to block the Big Ten. So I don't know. I know we got a super chat from Ryan Willie, so I cannot bring that up and showcase it, but I'm going to bring it up, and maybe when Moen comes back, he can do it again. But his question is, does Iowa have an OC yet? I'd like KU in the Big and drop Rutgers if I had a vote. Iowa does not have an OC yet, although I think we know who it is, but we'll find out here. And I think Coach said third week of this month. So I'm thinking that we're going to get a Paul Christ response, but we shall see. In terms of KU in the Big, a lot of people think that could eventually happen. Maybe not in this round, but if they get full control and they do some things and there's more money, yeah, I could see them coming in to help round out divisions. In terms of dropping Rutgers, Greg can go into this even more, but that just doesn't happen in the Big Ten.
It's not going to happen.
Is just so much involved with actually becoming a member of that conference. Not to say it's not with others, but part of being part of the Big Ten is you're actually becoming a part owner in the Big Ten network.
Yeah.
So you can't really just throw someone out when you're.
No.
It's
for anybody to, for the Big Ten to fracture, and it may years down the road, but it's going to fracture because. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, UCLA, USC, Washington, and Oregon. I would throw Iowa in that. I would throw Nebraska in that. If they wanted to fracture off and join another Super League somehow, that's about the only way that's going to fracture. It's not going to be because you're not going to kick out Rutgers or whatever. I would say, Immaculate, that Minnesota Golden Gophers have not hired a defensive coordinator either yet. So Iowa's looking for an offensive coordinator. Minnesota's looking for a defensive coordinator. And the Minnesota Golden Gopher fans are hoping, praying on bended knee that South Dakota State Jackrabbits head coach Jimmy Rogers picks up the phone from a call from PJ Fleck and takes the defensive coordinator job. This is all kind of speculation. There is no behind it. A lot of people have been talking Jimmy Rogers. He's been with South Dakota State for 18 years as a player, analyst, became co-defensive coordinator for 3 years, became defensive coordinator, became head coach. He's been confusing everybody in FCS football. Minnesota played South Dakota State in 2019. That's the year that Minnesota went 11-2. And Minnesota barely beat South Dakota State in the opener because they had us completely confused. Jimmy Rogers is a name to watch. Minnesota's probably not a big enough job for him, but he's going to go somewhere at some point and be a big star defensive coordinator somewhere, possibly head coach as well. So keep an eye on Jimmy Rogers. South Dakota State Jackrabbits just won the FCS championship once again.
kind of makes you think about the guy at Kansas State, right? Wasn't like a 4-time winner FCS at North Dakota State? Am I right?
I'm thinking of Lance Leopold at Kansas.
Is that Lance that did that, or was?
Well, Craig Bowl won a bunch of times at North Dakota State. He eventually became Wyoming's head coach, and now he's retiring.
Okay, who's the head coach at Kansas State?
Chris Kleeman.
Didn't he have some history?
Yeah, he had history at North Dakota State. Yes,
Yeah.
he won.
Yeah, he won like 4 times there. So that's what I was saying. Like
that was after Craig Bull. Yes, yep.
It's a place where they look and they watch.
Yes.
They watch for these
Jimmy
guys.
Rogers is being watched. He makes like $300,000 a year. So, the defensive coordinator position at Minnesota would be paying $1.2 million, probably, because Joe Rossi was making that. I mean, he probably want to go somewhere else bigger, but he's been in South Dakota his whole life. It's going to be somewhere around there that he takes his next job, and he's been absolutely magnificent at South Dakota State.
It's pretty wild how North Dakota, South Dakota, and Montana just rule the FCS.
Yeah.
It makes a good argument for them coming up at some point in time. It's just a matter of when we finally get to G5 consolidation. That's going to be a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, go as soon as I mentioned high end in Ohio. I don't live in high end Ohio, guys. I live in God's country where you need satellite internet to connect. And I am not going to replace Pat McAfee. If they want to give me the money, though, I could certainly use the money.
Yeah, I think that's proven out to maybe be a bad idea.
Yeah, I think more and more that's proven out to be a bad idea for ESPN. That's not a marriage made in heaven.
No.
But during the year, college game day to me has just kind of dipped, and I'm more of a big noon on Fox guy now. And it's not just because of Pat McAfee. It's just overall, I think the quality of that show has dipped. I know he catches a lot of flack for that, but
there's some other guys that are on other ESPN broadcasts that I would actually like to see more on there than who's the receiver from Ohio State that does the other studio shows?
Joey Galloway.
Yeah, I want some Galloway on there. I think they got some guys to put on there and they could do it right. It's just, I don't know. It's something is wrong. Something is missing with it. I still kind of watch it out of my own traditions, but I do find myself skipping over and watching Fox on occasion when it gets a little too silly.
Timothy Green, my favorite guitar is Rock Band guitar for Xbox. I can't play guitar. I can't play it.
That was a great answer. At first I had to go.
That was a great answer.
All right.
Yeah, Rock Band controller. I can do that like on medium quality. Anything beyond that.
It just shows how good your costumes are. You made them actually think that you're a rock star. That was well done.
Play guitar.
Yep.
I'll go into a bar and tell them that.
Yep.
Say, hey,
the easy answer is just say Gibson. Gibson.
Stradivarius.
Tony
agrees. Big noon by a mile. My favorite on game day was Pollock. I didn't mind David Pollock, but I can never forgive him for being a bust out at Cincinnati. They used a first round pick on him, and it was a reach.
I'd say Pollock was biased but fair, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he was clearly biased to the SEC.
He was very biased, but he was fair. I mean, he was good.
The last team to leave the Big Ten was Chicago in the 1920s. I believe that's correct.
Mm-hmm. And they chose to. And that was before there was all this money involved. They just didn't want to do it anymore.
Well, hey, Mike Smith, I got 2 different Guitar Hero or Rock Band controllers. One's a black and white, and one's like a tiger stripe. So they're pretty sweet. Maybe I'll come on here one night when we're on Twitch and I'll play a little. Pac hadn't lost teams since the 1950s, and they were kicked out. Anything is possible. I don't see the Big Ten losing anybody. That's a pipe dream.
Yeah, we had a conversation where you were taking your hiatus about the possibility. Someone was asking that they wanted KU in, and they wanted to see Rutgers out, and just saying how it's just not at all likely in the Big Ten that they could ever vote a school out.
And the Pac-12 didn't kick anybody out. They just scattered to higher land. Now that might happen to the Big Ten, like I said when you were out, Moen. I mean, there could be a time years down the road where Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Iowa, Nebraska, UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington, the high value programs, for whatever economic reasons, they leave to some sort of super league, and the Big Ten gets fractured. But it ain't going to be by Big Ten kicking Rutgers out. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I can't imagine a lot of Ohio State alumni would be in favor of something like that. You got to have losers in the conference. You got to have winners and losers. For every Ohio State to go undefeated, you need a Rutgers and a Indiana and a Purdue to beat up on.
Every game requires a loser.
And even there's been years, Minnesota a couple years ago, had an 11-1 season.
Yeah.
So
I just think Ohio State, like for example, Ohio State, they sponsor so many sports guys. What are they? Was it 37, 36? They have more scholarship, way more scholarship student athletes than like an Alabama, an Auburn, the Big Ten culture is just a little different. So Ohio State, they value giving as many scholarships as possible, many sports teams as possible, and they want to play against schools that they have commonality with. So I don't expect it to happen, but I'm just saying that's the only way it could happen. Much like what happened to the Pac-12. They didn't kick anybody out. They went to higher ground. So
Ryan Willie reminding us that Leopold won Division III titles at UW Whitewater. I knew he had won titles somewhere.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
More
Great
than
coach. They did. That was probably the best home run of this coaching go-round, was actually securing Leopold at Kansas for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So I don't want to monopolize too much of your time, Greg. I know you just did a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for being here.
You got it, buddy.
I always appreciate you and your friendship, and if there's anything we can ever do for you, by all means, let us know. We like to do
100%.
favors for people here in the family.
Thank you, Big 12. Ryan, Moen, After Dark, Immaculate. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
Have a good
night,
evening, Greg.
Good seeing you, buddy.
Golden Gophers, baby.
Go Gophers. And go Huskies. All right, guys. So we got some time here. Let's get some questions here. What kind of questions do you guys have? Greg had to go. I'm sorry. I didn't want to keep him. I didn't want to keep him, Nathan.
Yeah. He just did a couple hours on his other show.
He did a couple-hour show, and he was gracious enough to come on here and do 40 minutes with us, and I'm very appreciative of that. So I would not want to monopolize his entire Sunday evening. Mike Smith wants a banjo just to scare people. If I was going to learn one instrument, it would be the banjo.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, and it's very, very hard to play.
Hello.
The Bulls won 3 NIA national championships at Sioux Falls. Winners win.
I think you have to answer Jan Hulk's question if you see it up there. A couple more.
Who do you guys think will replace Harbaugh at Michigan? Jed Fish. Jed Fish at Arizona.
I think that one. I think part of it, they've kind of put themselves in a spot where they have to get a strong look at their OC, Sharon. They've turned him into a bit of a hero. So I think he's part of that.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I know we don't all think that, but this is from their perspective, and I would think that he would probably at least be part of the process. I don't know.
Jed Fish, though, former staffer at Michigan.
Oh, it's a good pick.
Very successful in Arizona. You could see him wanting to go there and live through the sanctions to rebuild that program.
That'd be hard to say no to if they said, "Hey, Jed, you interested?" I mean, how do you say no to that?
Here's another great name. What about Grubb?
God,
I don't think he's going to Iowa. What if Harbaugh leaves and Washington wins the title?
Yeah. If you guys could get him, I'd be so upset if Michigan got him. I really want him at Iowa. He's not coming for OC. You'd have to Ferentz would have to agree to step down probably a year or two earlier than he plans to. I think a lot of these guys coming back are because it might be his last year next year, so they want to be there for his last year. In order to get Grubb, though, he'd have to agree to give him the job or whatever. So I don't see that happening.
Conundrum thinks Jed Fish to Florida next year. He's a Gator. Well, you think they're really going to get rid of Billy Napier next year after all the success he's had?
Yeah, that guy. I'm surprised he's still there.
Yeah, that just like Mario Cristobal. That goes to show even if you can recruit and buy players, it doesn't always pan out. I guess Arizona's defensive coordinator just left to go coach linebackers at Texas, so that could be a sign of something.
I wonder if they got money problems going on. I mean, Texas could probably pay their line coach even more than Arizona can pay their DC.
Yeah, I don't see DeBoer going away from Washington, especially now. They just need to pay that man his money. Pay that man his money. Stop it with Leopold to Michigan. I don't think Michigan would take Leopold, to be honest with you. I think that Jed Fish would be their guy.
Yeah, I don't think Leopold's the right, dare say, fit for that culture. Like I would say he'd be better for Iowa than he would in Michigan. Not that he's going to leave Kansas for Iowa, but just saying it's just a little bit different type of place from where he's been.
Well, here's a good question. What do you put the over-under on Napier next year? You think he makes it through the whole season?
I'm surprised he's still there right now. So, I mean, I'm as soon as possible. I don't know why you keep that guy.
I say 5 games in, he's shit canned.
I mean, is he making too much right now for them to be able to pay? Like, is the buyout too much or is it too long?
They want to give him 3 years. They want to give him 3 seasons to see if he can turn it around. He's had good recruiting success, and I think that's what they're waiting. Yeah, I'm going to work on Nightbot after the show. I timed him out, but I think when I disconnected
it probably went back on.
And it's an AI superbot. So, how to train your Nightbot? Nope. It's an evil AI. I saw that one where the starts the war that ends all humanity. But do you guys see a Z3 conference merger between these 3 conferences? USA, AAC, and Mountain West. That'd be a gigantic conference.
No, but I do think Conference USA is going to be the one that probably gets munched upon. Should there come a day when the G5 wants to consolidate. It's kind of hard, though, because not all of them really are going to bring much value. It'd be mostly just about cutting it out. The rest of the G5 has a liberty problem now. So as long as Conference USA exists, they might actually be getting more money than all the rest, which is a very odd and ironic ending to that whole situation.
Michigan needs a Michigan man. You mean Connor Stallions?
That's his
come back and be the coach.
That's his plan. God, wouldn't that be wild if he came back and was actually a coach? Like maybe not a head coach, but like a few years in the future, they just go ahead and hire him just, because Michigan likes to send out FUs.
Is Nightbot in the public domain? He is. You can log in and create your own Nightbot account. But it's artificial intelligence, so you're playing God. You're playing with the fates there. I wonder if the players already have been told by Harbaugh himself that he is gone. I doubt it.
He'd be a shit coach if he did that.
I doubt it, but he hasn't told him that he's staying either.
That's the situation. But you don't want to tell your team before a game like this, like, oh, by the way, guys, I'm not going to be here next year, but go team. That would be horrible. I know people say, oh, but that's being truthful. No, it's not about him. It's about the team and what's best for them. And at this point in time, it's probably not best for them to hear that.
Michigan still has to deal with the NCAA. That's true. They just got penalized this year for Hamburger Gate. And that was 2 years ago during COVID protocols. So let's see how fast the NCAA moves on it. Here's a fail. The old KU interviewed Jed Fish, but went with Les Miles. Now, I do take Les Miles had won a national championship at this point, and Jed Fish was an unproven commodity. In the long run, yes, hiring Les Miles was a gigantic fail, but he did have a national title under his belt. He did have a ring. Ooh, tailgating will be limited tomorrow night at Houston, forecasting heavy thunderstorms tomorrow in Houston.
Dude, today in Arizona, I had about that much ice on my car. I don't know, something coming down from up in the northwest, up in Canada. So you guys might be getting that. That might be what they're talking about. And it was thunder and lightning and hail and ice. It was kind of wild.
Daniel Gygax brings up a great point about Conference USA. They were very close to closing. Middle Tennessee State and Western Kentucky were talking to the MAC. There would have been
I think
3
that would be a
schools left
great
if that
move.
happened.
If the MAC,
I think the MAC should expand. I think the MAC should take Northern Iowa, WKU.
yeah,
I think they should move west.
If they can make that move kind of down into the south a little bit, WKU and Middle Tennessee, I think that would be a good move because those aren't. Well, Western Kentucky's actually been very good, but those are schools that they could compete against. And yeah, I like Northern Iowa. Probably would have to bring. Who's the Missouri State, Southwest Missouri State, whoever their big rival is that they play against. I like Dakotas, bringing some Dakotas into the MAC in the future. We'll see. But yeah, I think that once we see what's coming in the future, I think that there's going to be some open doors into the G5s.
And if anybody hasn't watched MACtion, you're missing out. You are missing out.
Michigan-Ohio Conference.
Yep. No, Illinois is in there too.
Yeah, there's some subsidiaries.
Some subsidiaries. When Rich Raid went to Michigan, yeah. Well, he was their third choice, though. Remember that? Les Miles was going to go there. Kirk Herbstreit reported that, and then that changed. And then they interviewed Schiano, and they settled on Rich Rod. Rich Rod still pisses me off. He was going to go to Bama. They paid him. He turned around and left for Michigan. Well, Les Miles made KU fans excited, but only for a minute. Well,
that's usually what Les did.
Yeah. Why settle for less when you can get rich quick?
He's one of those great recruiters, but beyond that, no.
I think he told them that he is leaving. Michigan has been playing that card one more for the coach.
Oh, really?
Maybe. I don't know.
That would be interesting.
Really? Okay. Cleveland Rocks says, I know that NC State and UNC are supposedly attached at the hip. However, I just don't see them going to the same conference together. North Carolina State to the Big 12 and UNC to the SEC. What do you think about that?
You know, when I thought it was UNC and Virginia to the Big 10, then yeah, that was easy for me. I was like, okay, North Carolina State and Virginia Tech, which are the better football brands, then yeah, I could see it. UNC leaving NC State behind. There's been a lot going on in that state, you know, and you got the board coming out and saying they want to be involved in all these decisions that happen. Then suddenly the UNC chancellor gets pushed out and a member of that board then comes in to become chancellor. It's just, I mean, could just be, you know, connecting dots that aren't meant to be connected, but that seems pretty obvious, like that was a power play. So the idea of UNC getting out and leaving behind NC State, I think the odds have gotten less in that regard. And I think that's why I say to the SEC with all those 4, but they're not going to get a full payment. The SEC is going to charge them for forcing them to take 4. So it'll probably be like a half to 2/3 payment at best until the next TV deal.
Yeah, if you'd have told me that the Big Ten was not going to pick up UNC or Virginia, I'd have said they were the losers in this realignment. But if they pick up Florida State and a Clemson or a Miami, I think you would have to say they are the absolute winners in that situation. Picking up Florida State alone, I think, is huge. I think that was the impossible dream for so long. Sergeant Pickles thinks the fact that it is the game's in a dome tomorrow night is a big deal for you. I think that favors Washington absolutely. No wind, no weather, no elements to face.
That's true.
Michael Penix is really going to be able to air out the ball.
That is true.
Kenneth Evans lets us know it's supposed to snow 12 to 18 inches where he lives on Tuesday. You can keep it, Kenneth. We had an inch of it this morning. I went out to get donuts and coffee, and people again forgot how to drive in snow here.
He's down in Texas though, if I'm not mistaken.
Texas, they're gonna
he's a Texas guy. I don't know if he lives in Texas, but I think he's down there. So I mean, that's a pretty big deal if that's coming in. I remember last time they got that in Texas, their whole power grid went down. And if anyone knows, Texas works on its own power grid, so they can't just lean on others of the country sending them power.
God bless and good luck. Maction and Pac-12 After Dark equals incredible games that nobody saw. I watched Maction, me and two other people.
And the other person was in Michigan.
Yeah. You haven't lived till you've seen Bowling Green play Miami in a 37-36 game.
If Northern Iowa joins, I might start caring.
Kenneth Evans is a Texas guy who lives in Wisconsin. Well,
gotcha. That makes more sense.
That makes more sense.
There is a front going across that came out of the Arctic, and it's pretty brutal. I haven't seen anything like that here, honestly, since I've lived here. What I went through today, so they came this far south.
I agree with you, Timothy Green. I think Rich Rod is the greatest coach that ever lived, and they never should have fired him at Michigan. They should have given him a lifetime contract and kept him there. Brian Willie's putting at Washington 38, Michigan 31. We're at the top of the hour. I think we're going to wrap this up, Immaculate. We're going to do a short show this week.
Okay.
I've got to get up early for a medical procedure, but let's end it with championship talk since it's tomorrow. Washington 38, Michigan 31. What do you got?
I was on the show earlier with Greg, and the over-under is at 55. I was saying that I think they'll actually score under that, but I do have Washington by 7. I do think Michigan will succeed at slowing the game down to some degree, but I just can't bet against Penix. I mean, that guy can put a ball on a dime. Michigan's got some great D-backs, but Penix, in my opinion, is the best passer at the college ranks that we've seen in a long time. So I think Michigan slows the game down, but Washington wins by 7.
Yeah, Washington needs to stack the box and stop Michigan from running, and they need to score 2 touchdowns early on. If Washington can get up 2 scores, I don't think McCarthy can keep up.
Nope.
And I think that's the key to winning. But as so often, I don't want to pick Washington and then have them lose, so I'm going to pick Michigan so Washington don't win. So I'll pick Michigan 24, Washington 17. And that way the score will come out Washington 49-3.
Yeah, this is one of those games where the beginning of the game is going to matter a lot, and that's pretty exciting. A lot of times you're watching a game like, okay, they're going to warm up. What happens at the very start of this game could have big ramifications going into the rest of the game. If Michigan can hold, Washington might be in trouble. If Washington can get out real quick, then I think Michigan's going to have trouble. So first quarter is going to matter a lot.
Yeah, I think this might be one of the times where the coin flip really decides the game.
Could be.
Because if Washington goes on offense first and scores a touchdown, that's going to put immense pressure on Michigan for
that's
their
a good
first
point.
drive.
A lot of times, usually, you defer, you let whatever.
You defer, but I think
But
Washington
you might take the ball.
Take the ball.
First,
Get
yeah,
that
we
7
might get
points. Yeah.
That's interesting too. This could be right at the flip. We see this game is different than the usual.
Mike Smith hopes my pooper turns out okay.
That's nice of him.
Thank you. It's my thyroid, but
Good wishes. That's what we like.
I'm telling you what, if they've got to go through the pooper to get to the thyroid, I might be taking a few days off, people, or finding a new doctor. My God.
Yeah, that too.
Mr. Monkey says Washington 30, Michigan 23. We're going to wrap this up, guys. I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Thank Greg for being here. I want to thank everybody for their generous super chats. Cleveland Rocks, especially. I want to give you a shout out for gifting the 5 members to the community. If you received one of those gifted memberships, make sure to thank Cleveland Rocks for doing that. It means the world to us. If you haven't yet, if you could give the stream a nice like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and give us a subscribe. Those things are free, and those help us out so much in the YouTube algorithm. You will be back here on Tuesday. Go ahead and promo that.
I think so.
Immaculate. Tell you who you got on Tuesday.
Well, if I'm remembering right, we got ourselves actually an early interview in the day. If any of you guys are interested in the college football game coming out, you may have heard about a guy who goes by the name of Matt Brown. If you have, we're having him on, and luckily enough, we're going to have a talk with him about that. We might actually be the first interview of him after that announcement, and I've actually seen him say that he's not quite sure if there's going to be much of anything coming out. Meanwhile, we've got other guys saying there's going to be a statement, but not a commercial on the game per se. So we'll see what happens, but he's coming on. He also has his own newsletter. He's a media guy who's also very much into realignment, so it should be a great conversation. And that one's going to be a little bit earlier in the day, folks. So a little bit earlier than what you're used to seeing us by about 2 or 3 hours, I do believe. But yep, that's going to be going on Tuesday.
And Nate is going to have a pre-show tomorrow for the college football championship game. So tune into that as well. Other than that, I will see you guys on Wednesday. Thank you all again. Just want to let you know you're appreciated. We love you guys. Got the best community on YouTube, hands down. With that, we bid you all an adieu. And I will put the rock music on.